Well, it's a rainy day here at the shop, and this is going to be part 9 of the Corsound 15 build. A while ago we got the centerboard trunk glued in, and I still haven't gotten around to fiberglassing the joint between the trunk and the bottom of the hull, so we're going to try to get that done today. And also, in order to get the seat tops on, we've got to get this aft locker painted. It's a lot easier to paint it now when there's no seat top on than it is to try to do it through this hole. And this is the stock Corsound 15, so there's been some talk on the forum about people's preferences in regards to the aft end of the Corsound series. Some people like to leave this whole compartment open. Some people like the full aft bulkhead with the full aft deck, but I'm just going to be doing the partial bulkhead with the access hole. And this is going to be a wet locker for storing your roads and your fenders and maybe an extra life jacket. And so we're going to go ahead and get this painted. And I've already sanded it as good as I can. I've gotten all the glossy epoxy sanded down with 80 grit sandpaper. You can still see a tiny little bit of gloss in the reflection of my light there, but it's good enough. And I'm going to be wiping it down with denatured alcohol, and then we're going to get it painted. Okay, it's kind of noisy here in the shop because it's actually raining outside, so I hope you can hear me. This is the paint we're going to be using for the cockpit and eventually the hull. This is a Duveau product. It's called Devthane 379, and it's a 4:1 aliphatic polyurethane gloss enamel, and it's the smelly stuff basically. And whatever paint you choose is going to be a compromise between, you know, how well ventilated your workspace is, how your boat is going to be used, whether it's going to be stored in a garage or mostly outdoors for its life, and also how often you want to work on the paint job. So with a coating like this, you're going to be able to leave the boat outside for, you know, 10 years potentially, and not really have to worry about the paint job. This is a highly UV resistant, highly mildew resistant coating that's going to give you years and years of glossy finish. This is what I painted my personal boat with, and if you can manage to use a slightly more toxic paint system, I highly recommend a 2-part polyurethane top coat coating for your boat, because you are going to have a very long lasting durable coating. So anyway, that's what I'm going to be using, and so I'm going to mix some up, and we're just going to be applying it with a brush, and it's probably going to take 2 or 3 coats, and I'm going to be thinning it out with actually an all grip product. I'm going to be using this all grip reducer. This is actually a spraying reducer because I don't have the brushing reducer, but all grip makes the best reducers for 2-part polyurethanes. So that's all I'm going to say about it for now. Well, it's pouring rain here at the shop, and naturally every time I try to video something, the rain gets louder and louder on my tin roof, so hopefully I can get through this part. But we're trying to get the centerboard trunk glass to the hull today, and I've already dry fit the pieces of fiberglass around the trunk, as you can see. It's really difficult to do this perfectly. You're not going to get a perfect fit between all the pieces of glass, so you just have to do your best and sand it smooth after the fact. And another thing with this fiberglass tape, it has two different kinds of edges. You can see one edge is kind of thick. I don't know if it's going to zoom in there. One edge is kind of thick from the weaving process, and the other edge is nice and smooth. And so what you don't want to do is bury a thick edge under another layer of glass, because you'll get an air bubble right there where the thick edge of the glass ends. And so what you want to do is make sure that your two thick edges, so if these are my two pieces of glass, we're doing 2 layers of glass on the centerboard. If these are your thick edges, you want those to be facing outward. So there's my thick edge on this piece, and there's my thick edge on that piece. And when I do 2 layers of glass, I'm going for about a 1/3 overlap. So 1, 2/3, 3/3. So I'm going for about a 2/3 overlap in the middle. So that's about 2 inches. And then I'll put my fillet right in the middle of that. So that'll be my overlap there. And I like to put the rough edge down, so it'll go down like that, because it makes it easier to sand or scrape that rough edge on a flat surface rather than on a vertical surface. So I'm going to go ahead and glass this trunk down. Okay, there's the first side with 2 layers of glass, and so this is my first rough edge and my next rough edge, and that's going to be easy to clean up. And to simplify things, I think I'm just going to leave the end here and do the 2 sides and just leave this in place and clean it up when it hardens, and then come back and do these in a second layup, just because I don't want to mess up the end of my glass there. Here's the hatch ring that we've glued in previously, and I'm fortunate to work with Graham, who designed the Corsound 15, on almost a daily basis, and so he gets a chance to review my videos. And one thing he pointed out was that lately he's started extending this rail, this outer rail, past the end of the hatch ring to avoid a stress concentration, because if we just glue our plywood down here, we have this semi-sharp corner on the end of the hatch ring, and if you put a lot of weight right on this edge of the hatch ring, you've got a stress concentration there. And so by just extending this out into the open here and tying it in further with the plywood, you eliminate that. But I decided to go a little further with that, and I'm going to actually glue these extender blocks onto the sides of my hatch ring, and they're going to, I'm just going to scuff this up, and I'm going to epoxy that against the side, and it's going to be glued to our stringer there. And then when we glue the seat top down, this will be tied in all the way across the back of the hatch ring into the stringer. And so I'm going to do that on all four corners on both sides of my hatch ring. And we'll modify the plans or the kit, if it doesn't already show it, that this rail should extend farther out. It doesn't necessarily have to touch the stringer to eliminate the stress concentration, but ending it right here does form a stress concentration. So I'm going to go ahead and glue these stiffener blocks on. Okay, I've got those glued in, and keep in mind that this butt joint here is going to be pretty fragile until we get the seat top glued in. And I'm just going to do a finger fillet, just cleaning up the epoxy, thickened epoxy, just by running my finger across it, just so there's not a real hard corner there. I don't know if I'm going to be able to zoom in on that, but we're going to get our seat tops glued on pretty soon, so I'm not worried about it. But that is going to be a fragile butt joint, and I'm just going to clean up the rest of this epoxy squeeze out with my finger. Okay, now I've got all four of these little hatch ring extension blocks glued in, and I also didn't mention that I did use a router to radius the underside of this block. I like to radius any underside corners that could potentially come into contact with a dry bag or something that you slide into your hatch. You don't want to have sharp corners there. And my standard has been just a 1/4 inch round over bit, and obviously these blocks will need to be coated with epoxy before the seat tops get glued down, so I'll be doing that as well once this glue dries. And I've got I think two coats maybe now of paint in my aft seat locker, and I've just been brushing it in with a brush. I'm trying to get a nice good coat on this, an even coat. This probably will never get painted again in the boat's lifetime, so I want to get I'll do at least one more coat, maybe two more, before the seat tops get glued down. In the next couple of days I'll be able to glue the seat tops on, and I've still got to do the final coats of epoxy on the underside of the forward seat tops. I've already done the aft seat top, you can see it here, except for that butt block there. But in a previous video I mentioned that we recommend gluing the thwart in place to lock the position of the seat tops together, and we do recommend that on the Spindrift, the 12-foot version, and we've been doing it on our boat that we built at the boat show. But for the 15, it's a big enough boat that I think it's going to be easier actually to install the two seat tops separately, and so that's the way I'm going to be doing it. And as long as you did your dry fitting and you dry fit the seat tops when you cut the beams for the thwarts that are holding the centerboard trunk in place there, you shouldn't have any trouble. And just make sure you dry fit everything. The key is dry fitting the parts before you glue to make sure that you're not going to run into a problem down the road. So I'm going to do the epoxy coating on these, and probably in my next video we'll be able to glue the seat tops down.